Self-Defense presents a State of Wake joint. Grab your beer, your ammo, and your Clipozine Glockomatic as we take you through a full auto hour of fast, funny, deadly, serious talk about guns. If you cry when someone draws a picture of a gun on a piece of paper in front of you, you best stay away because you are about to enter a gun-filled zone. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Full Auto with Dimitri and Paul.
Welcome to Full Auto with Dimitri and Paul, your home for self-defense and self-preservation since
like 3 weeks. Oh wait, it's like 6.
Since current year 2016. Come on.
Oh my God. Dude,
actually, it's been more than a couple of weeks. I think we started in May or June, so we're almost 6 months old, or more than 6 months old. The date is December 6, 2016, and you're listening to the episode, Don't Be a Nazi Gun Grabber. That's right. By the way, we're going to violate Godwin's law all up in here. We're going to be violating Godwin's law, and I don't apologize for that.
What the hell is Godwin's law? Is that some egghead?
Godwin's law is a law that says he who mentions Hitler has lost the debate. He who mentions Hitler first has lost the debate. And since we're talking about Hitler and the Nazis, well, not just Hitler and the Nazis, German, well, I'll get to it. It'll make sense. We welcome, first of all, our listeners on Spreaker.com as well as our syndicated provider, IPMNation.com. Today we're going to do a little bit, this is something that we will do with some degree of regularity. Every once in a while, we're going to do an episode where we don't have all the bells and whistles, we don't have the commercials and all that stuff, and it's just going to be dudes talking, and it's usually going to be when we're dealing with one particular topic. Like for this episode, for instance, brace yourselves, everybody. No happy ending this week. Nope.
That's
no
disappointing.
Happy ending. That is disappointing because then
Are we going to end with the Holocaust? Is it going to be one of those like bummer shows?
It's not a bummer show. It's a provocative show to get you to think about what's going on now, using the past to understand that.
Is it provocative, like a bunch of Democrats out there like screaming and crying because they lost the election, or is it provocative intellectually? Can you please explain?
It's provocative, like, holy crap, what kind of world do we live in?
Like Democrats marching on the streets for no reason.
Yeah, okay. Wait to totally trash the show before we even made the show. Good job. That's why you're my co-host.
I read the notes, dude. I read the notes.
That's why you're my co-host.
Why are you putting those two fingers up?
I don't know what you're talking about. You lie.
Lies.
Wait,
I want you to hear this.
Lies.
Watch the Skype.
There is no Skype. This is... What are you drinking? Are you drinking your gin? By the way, we're drinking gin while we do the show. Fight me!
Tonight, it's gin night.
It is gin night. The day of infamy is just one day away. The day the United States entered World War II. Now, to commemorate that event, we thought we'd look at one aspect of that war. The gun laws in Germany, starting from the end of World War I leading up to World War II. So that's right. This is a special edition of Full Auto that looks at the history of self-defense laws in Germany from, like I said, from the end of World War I to World War II. And we'll also be drawing some parallels between German law and current laws and proposals addressing gun control today.
So, if you're a history buff, this will be captivating. Everyone else, snooze fest. Oh, sorry, did I interrupt you? Sorry.
Yeah, that's why you're my co-host. Way to keep them listening right there. That's how you do it. If you want to keep them listening, just tell them, hey, really boring stuff is about ready to come down.
What's funny? It's boring stuff, but it's happening all over again.
Oh, yeah. Everything old is new again.
On.
Everything old is new again. Everything old. You know what?
Dude,
forget the German thing.
That was bad.
I actually think it was pretty good. I actually think I'm a pretty good singer. Actually.
I'll wait for the audience comments on that one.
You think we'll get audience comments for this show? Do you think we're going to have an audience for this show? Seriously?
Dude, you should start reading because we got a lot of material to cover.
Dude,
I don't know why you're dilly-dallying like this.
Dude, you got time to spare. This ain't no thing. It ain't no thing. So we're going to look at the first part of this. We're going to deal with what happened to the Germans just after World War I, to look at one aspect of gun control that isn't necessarily always looked at. And that is outside external powers to your nation. So we're going to start with the request for a general disarming of the citizens. This is right after World War I in Germany, and a generic gun law had been imposed by the Allies after World War I. And it had been introduced by the Weimar Republic. The actual, and though it was introduced, the actual enforcement was less stringent, as no general disarming took place immediately after the war. However, various incidents, like, well, you probably don't know about the Cat Putsch or the assassination of Walter Rathenow, led to actual enforcement. So, you know, they created the laws, but they didn't immediately act on the laws. And they didn't act on the laws until they had enough people that were scareds that would then support what the government would do in the name of safety for everyone. Does
We're
any
not
of this sound
coming
familiar
after
to you?
your guns. We're not coming after your guns.
We're not coming after your guns. That's crazy. That's crazy
We're
talk.
just
That's
coming
never
after your
happened
ammo.
before. Right. But now they may enact like, hey, the New York SAFE Act and what's going on in Connecticut. Those laws are largely unenforced and unenforceable right now, but they're still on the books. They haven't taken them off the books. They're like sleeping giants, just waiting to be stirred from their sweet slumber. So the Weimar Republic saw various Freikorps and paramilitary forces like the Reichsbacher Schwarz-Ringold, and the Stahlhelm and the Nazi SA.
Dude, we are heading into Snoozeville here. We got to.
Oh my gosh! Seriously,
pick up the pace, there, brother.
I don't want to pick up the pace, man. You know what? Welcome to NPR. On this week's NPR, we're going to take a serious, profound, and slow look at German laws. German gun laws, and show what we can learn about our own gun laws by looking at. You like that?
Why don't you read the whole law and just cite everything?
Do you want me to do that?
Oh, dude, yeah.
Studio audience.
Dude,
Studio
I haven't
audience.
been able to sleep in 3 nights. I think this might be the one.
Okay, so the abomination. Now I'm going to go back to present day. And we're going to look at.
No,
my
go
gosh.
ahead.
You're a terrible human being. I don't know. Why are you on this show? You wandered in one day. You're like, oh, you guys are doing a show. And I was like, I felt bad for you. I felt so bad for you. I couldn't tell you that you weren't welcome. And I just let you stay. And you keep coming back.
Because I said it every time you
that.
try to throw me off the show, I call you a racist, and then you cower.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I cower. Like I don't want to be called a racist. So this is from the Daily Signal from back in September of this year. The Obama administration upped its commitment to get the United Nations Arms Trade Treaty. Wow, say that 3 times fast. Say that 1 time fast. United Nations Arms Trade Treaty ratified. Go ahead, say it 1 time fast. See if you can.
No thanks.
No, I know you couldn't. A tall order, since a bipartisan coalition of 50 senators have already said they oppose the gun treaty. Oh, that's nice. Well, but Secretary of State John Kerry signed it 3 years ago. Second Amendment advocates are concerned the treaty could provide an international law rationalization for a national gun registry in the United States. Now, this next part here, this is where we're going to get into the relevancy of how nations outside your nation could view you as a threat. And
is this where we get into Fast and Furious? That was a setup?
Well, we don't get into Fast and Furious, but we do kind of indirectly, although we won't go too far down that road here, unless you want to.
American guns are going into other countries. We got to limit
this is
guns
it.
in America.
This is absolutely. So first I'll read the key part that the Second Amendment people are saying. Dude, what is this? Each state party shall establish and maintain a national control system, including a national control list, in order to implement the provisions of this treaty. Each state party is encouraged to include in those records the quantity, value, model, type, authorized international transfers of conventional arms covered under Article 2, conventional arms, whatever. So that's pretty scary language there. Now, this is when we get into the whole Fast and Furious. Mexico's Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Claudia Ruiz Massí, told, that sounds French. That's a weird name for a. You should only have Mexican names in Mexico.
Well, when Napoleon's troops lost there, some of those people got integrated into greater Mexican culture, I think.
Well, that's terrible. So he told the group that of the guns used to commit crimes in Mexico, we found more than 70% were related to a buyer or distributor in the United States. So there you go. Mexico is making the case that United States and it not having good gun control laws is a danger to our country. And
Can I say how much I love Cinco de Mayo?
Well, go ahead, say it.
It's wonderful. It's a great festive time.
Are you going somewhere with this? You got to be.
No,
there's a
not
point
at
you're
all.
making.
I like
you
Cinco de Mayo.
You wanted to insert that random thing in there, Cinco de Mayo, that communist holiday or whatever. Is it a communist holiday or is it Mexican
it's when they
independence?
beat the French, dude.
You just like to be able to remember somebody beating the French. It's inappropriate,
dude. It's so easy to beat the French.
Hey, by the way, I have an identical twin. And he got that 23andMe test, and we're gonna see if
is that when you see when you're gay genetically.
I don't get it. What 23? Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No,
got to add that.
I have my suspicions about you and your brother, but I want to see what the DNA test says.
Yeah, we're gonna find out. We're going to find out. Now, all these, we're going to find out how many of these family stories are true. We got this blood, that blood, and all these other blood. I blew over your reference. So
I can't stop laughing. I'm sorry.
I'm glad I could.
23andMe. That sounds just so gay.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Okay, so Masso also said at the conference, Mexico
what
welcomes.
If you're Mexican?
Mexican is not a race.
Latino.
Okay, Latino is not a race.
What if you're Mediterranean?
Oh gosh.
Like the olive people.
I don't even want to think about it. No, I don't care what I am. I really don't.
Dude,
I don't have an emotional.
You're Jewish.
I'm not like you Greek nationals. I don't have a nationalistic fervor inside of me for anyone.
Oh yes, you do.
None. No nationalistic fervor.
Well, that's because you've swallowed the libertarian pill? Swallowed that pill yet?
No, it's because I've matured and I've gained a deeper understanding in my years. And I'm a little bit older than you. I used to think like you, and a little bit more experience. You'll get there. Be patient. Don't worry. You're on the right track. Dad. You're getting there. You're well.
Thanks.
So, Masu also said at the conference, Mexico welcomes the strenuous and sincere efforts of President Barack Obama to establish administrative measures to strengthen controls on the possession and sale of weapons. So, the parallel...
Build the wall.
Well, you want to build the wall?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So, the parallel here is...
These guys are cooperating socialists, internationalist socialists. I think they're about to get their asses handed to them based on what's going on in Italy and all over Europe and the Trump and Brexit. There's a backlash to this internationalist movement to create international laws,
the globalism
governing
crap is,
firearms and everything else.
I think people are realizing that globalism isn't really globalism. It's basically what it is a consolidation of corporate and state power aimed at the bit players, freezing the bit players out of the competitive marketplace. Actual healthy globalism would be where markets were authentically open to one another, but that's not how it's working out, and folks are figuring it out. But that's another show, and that's not really a full auto show, actually. It's not. Well, it could be.
Sorry.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
that's the gin talking.
That's the gin. The gin. You know, there is a gin. Which one do you mean? Which one do you mean? The DGIN, DJIN, or the okay.
The
So
Persian
you're
version?
You're going there. I thought you were going there because the devil made me do it. So we're going to go into the next segment here, and we're going to look at. Well, we're going to look at trustworthiness. That's our next topic.
I got my gangsta guy here, yo. What up, cuz? Break yourself, break yourself, break yourself. Cuz.
This is a ghost gun. This right here has ability with a 30 caliber clip to disperse with 30 bullets within half a second. 30 magazine clip in half a second.
We have federal regulations and state laws that prohibit hunting ducks with more than 3 ranges, and yet it's legal to hunt humans.
Say hello to my little friend.
Australia just said, well, that's it. We're not seeing that again, and imposed very severe, tough gun laws, and they haven't had a mass shooting since.
You know, semi-automatic weapons are not just about gun control. This is about national security. You know that these weapons can shoot down airplanes.
Break yourself, break yourself, break yourself.
The big difference between an assault rifle and a hunting rifle is, frankly, the scope that one puts on it, and scopes can be purchased online.
I want to see people disarmed. I want people disarmed in our major cities. How's that for a plan?
We cannot let a minority of people hold a viewpoint that terrorizes the majority of people.
Could it be done on spur of the moment with a hunting rifle? Very easily, as long as it was a double-shot weapon, they can easily do it with something that you can purchase at a grocery store.
Say hello to my little friend.
The Second Amendment is in the Constitution so that we can have muskets when the British people come over in 1800.
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Break yourself. Cuz.
When we last left you, we left you with the word trustworthiness. But before we get to trustworthiness, Dimitri, you did something recently that you want to share with our studio audience?
I don't often do it, but this time I splurged.
He did.
I went and got a haircut. Can you believe it?
I can. And how much did you pay for that haircut?
$10.
Whoa!
$10.
Whoa!
And I tipped handsomely.
Handsomely?
Yes, I had.
You're a handsome tipper,
conversation.
or
yes,
you tip
I am.
handsomely? Are you a handsome tipper?
No, I tip handsomely.
And you tip? Are you a handsome tipper that tips handsomely, or just a handsome tipper, or just?
Shut up! Let me finish my story.
Oh gosh, your story is so boring. I can't believe I agreed to let you tell this story. This is a big mistake. Big mistake.
All right, let's move on.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
No, go ahead. Tell your story. Hold on.
So
hold on.
Dude,
no. Hold on. I gotta take a swig of gin before you tell that story.
Dude,
anyway, go ahead.
The look on your face says Bombay Sapphire.
And that's relevant.
True? Yes, it is. So I got a haircut, and my barber and I were talking politics. And being horribly cynical of the political system in the United States, I was just listening to what people were saying in the barbershop. And many of them were Democrats and left-leaning folks who were pleasantly surprised and happy with some of the things that Trump was doing recently. And I was like, really? Guys, seriously? And I asked him a question. Who votes primarily for the left and the Democrats in the United States? And the answer to that question was, well, immigrants and the working class and poor people and good and decent folks who believe in fairness and equality. And I said, well, let's go back to that, because if that's the case, wouldn't it be advantageous then for the Democratic Party to make sure that there are lots of immigrants coming to the country and that there were lots of poor people? And everyone stopped and kind of were like befuddled and like, holy shit. So what you're saying is, yeah, the Democrats create lots of immigration and like to keep people poor. I'm like, well, if the poor people ever made it to the middle class,
there wouldn't be Democrats.
They'd be losing a lot of electorates, wouldn't they? Or a lot of votes, wouldn't they? And they all kind of shut up. And you can see the light bulbs going off all over the room. Now, I have my criticism of the neocons and the conservatives as well. And it's as brutal as that.
Well, they definitely can't afford to have too many poor people.
Right.
Okay.
So
let's get back to this. Are you got more for this? Is there more to this story?
I found it very interesting.
No, absolutely.
People had
That's
not
great.
considered why, and it's huge. And I find that even Democrats are now starting to warm up to Trump, and I'm not. I'm still.
I'm not warming up to
happy
anyone.
with the dude.
I don't warm up to anyone. But yeah,
let's go back to the Nazis.
Let's get back to those Nazis.
Those Nazis. They're just so much information, so much fun, so much to talk about.
The concept of trustworthiness of the owner and need for the special purpose of the user, example, hunting, sport, or self-defense, had been established since the time of the Weimar Republic in any German law. So this concept was introduced during this series of gun laws that happened right after World War I. And it's been, up to this date, it's been a regular feature in German law, this idea of trustworthiness. And that's pretty significant. I'm going to now draw a parallel between something that's going on in America today, and it's an interesting article that was written in Salon about, well, the title of the article is "Everyone Calm Down, the No-Buy Bill was designed to embarrass Republicans not to pass, and it's working." Now, I don't buy this person's scenario fully. Well,
how so?
Well, when I say that, this was written in June 2016, where they thought that the Democrats were going to rule the day and Hillary was going to be the next president, and that all their strategies were working, and Trump was going to totally crater the party. So Wednesday night, the House Democrats, building on Senator Chris Murphy's headline-grabbing filibuster to force a Senate vote on gun control, held a highly dramatic sit-in demanding the same thing in the House. At issue was a bill deemed the no-fly, no-buy bill. There was also a bill.
I'm losing you.
How am I losing you? Or no, you losing me. How are you losing
up horribly
right now?
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is a teaching hospital or something. Okay, let me just hear that I sound good in here. Okay, I sound good. I sound fine. So it's just your connection there. So I'm going to move forward, and then hopefully the problem will fix itself. At issue was a bill deemed the no-fly, no-buy bill. Okay, blah, blah. The no-fly list is a civil rights disaster by every conceivable standard. Alex Perrine at Gawker writes. Now, Alex Perrine is a liberal. It is secret. It disproportionately affects Arab Americans. Interesting. Very interesting. Just keep that in mind. Disproportionately affects a certain community. In this case, I'll say
an ethnic group.
An ethnic group, right. It is error-prone. There is no due process or effective recourse for people placed on the list, and it constantly and relentlessly expands. If Democrats are going to sacrifice a bill to the fire, it might as well be one that probably shouldn't pass in the first place. That's what this guy's now saying. So why offer up a bill?
Due process is overrated.
Yeah, due process it's like slows the process down. When you have due process, it slows the process down, and you can't have that. So why offer up a bill that was destined always to fail? 2 reasons. 1, to kickstart political momentum for more comprehensive gun control. Mm-hmm. Except that didn't work. And 2, that doesn't mean it won't work futurely. And 2, to cause political problems. Now, this is an interesting theory here. To cause political problems for Republicans in a year when they already are in disarray due to the Donald Trump candidacy. On both counts, this bill did what it needed to do. So this person's bottom line theory is this, that the no-buy bill puts the Republicans in an awful quandary. On one hand, they want to seem like they're tough on terror and they're law and order, command and control. That's the Republican Party. On the other hand, their Second Amendment. So this is a bill that will force them to make a wrong decision, no matter what they do, according to their quote-unquote principles. And that's the logic behind it. But the more important salient point, as far as what we're talking here, is this idea of this no-fly, no-buy list. It's born in this German law, this concept of trustworthiness, that the state can deem you trustworthy or not trustworthy, and that it can decide whether you have a right to self-defense or whether you don't have a right to self-defense based on this trustworthiness that you never actually get to go and make your case
it's
for.
It's not trustworthiness. It's not a right. At that point, it's a privilege. At that point, the state says you have the privilege of having a firearm, not the right. When you start talking about trustworthiness, now you're talking about you have a privilege because you are deemed one of the good guys by the state. You're not a crazy Arab terrorist. You're not a crazy Mexican gangbanger. You're not a crazy Irish, whiskey runner. You're not
a Christian nationalist, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. You're one of us.
You fit into the right camp. You're pro us. And that makes you trustworthy. And that's kind of the principle behind this idea of no fly, no buy. Now, why should that matter? The bill didn't pass. Well, Donald Trump.
Thank God.
It didn't have a chance of passing yet. Donald Trump has expressed support for this bill. He has expressed support for the idea. Now, what he said was, well, we'll make sure that you have due process. And actually, the Republican sticking point was not that you shouldn't have a no-fly, no-buy list. Their sticking point was that the Democrats' process for which individuals may be able to get off that list wasn't clear enough, wasn't transparent enough. They wanted something that would have been less permanent, but you still could have been put on this list without due process, and that you would be able to earn your way off the list in a quote-unquote realistic fashion. So they're not against the principle. They're only against the mechanism by which people can declare that or offer proof that they're not guilty. Because, that's the way it works. You're guilty until proven. Wait, hold on. I had that Histron
Now you're
Proteron
getting
thing.
all tangled up in the weeds, dude.
I know. Words are. I mean, as long as you say the right words, what's it matter what the order is? Guilty, innocent. I got those 2 words out. I mean, I know most of the time you innocent.
So if I go down the street singing Deutschland über alles, am I one of the good guys? Can I get a gun?
In Germany. In
Good.
Weimar Republic, Germany, in America, maybe not so much. So you're going to have to consider the context and the culture that you are currently in. So we're going to get to the next segment. And the next segment is going to look at a shift from all out prescription to a more indirect method of monitoring gun control or monitoring guns. And that is through regulation and licensing.
Let's face it, everybody hates politicians and most government policies.
And most libertarian shows spend their time talking about the non-aggression principle, philosophy, and who would build my roads.
But not Liberty Lampoon. Every week we lambast politicians, public figures, policies in print, all from a libertarian perspective.
No one is safe. Our offensive interludes, brash rhetoric, and ad hominem attacks are just what the doctor ordered.
We applaud those other shows for their good work. But at the end of the day, someone's got to call these monsters out. Look for Liberty Lampoon on your favorite podcast platform.
And be sure to follow us on Twitter at Liberty Lampoon for the most up-to-date hate speech against the state.
So you started a local business, and you're just waiting for the people to beat a path to your site. And waiting, and waiting, and waiting. Well, you can keep on waiting, or you can get results with Regal Blue Media. Get the results you want. More sales, more influence, votes, donors, whatever. Regal Blue Media offers a full range of new media and traditional media services for companies and organizations to communicate effectively and achieve their desired results. Well-connected, experienced, and highly ethical, we strive to meet your expectations and then exceed them time after time. Whatever your project, whether big or small, we have the people and the tools to serve you and make you a success. Call 717-503-1645 and schedule your free consultation today. Or visit us at regalbluemedia.com. That's regalbluemedia.com.
Tired of those guns that don't shoot themselves? Do you wish you, too, had one of those guns that shoots 30 clips a second? How about a gun with a bullet button that will convert your single-shot bolt-action rifle to an automatic assault weapon? Well, have we got the gun for you? You've heard all those politicians talking about this gun, but you didn't think it was real, right? Well, it's real. It's called the Super Duper Crap It's Real gun. That's right, the Super Duper Crap It's Real gun. And now, you can buy this gun for only $5 by just calling this number, 1-800-GET-A-GUN. That's 1-800-GET-A-GUN. Just give us an address and pay COD when we deliver it. The Super Duper Crap It's Real gun. Finally, an automatic assault weapon that will mow down your neighbors all by itself.
Brought to you by the makers of Invisible Passports, the indestructible passport for the savvy terrorist that wants to make sure people remember him after he's gone. This gun may not be available in any of the 50 states or in any of the countries that exist on the planet today. If you do actually call 1-800-GET-A-GUN, you might not actually get through to an operator that's actually selling the Super Duper Crap It's Real gun. This is a parody commercial intended to trigger the jimmies of your gun-phobic, state-worshipping friends.
Wait a minute, Dad. I haven't finished Dick Tracy.
You can't read?
Okay, read to me.
Oh, okay. Now let's see. Tracy's trapped by the crooks. Gee, he's in a real tough spot.
Boy, I'll draw my Dick Tracy snub nose 38 and I'll... See that shooting shell, Dad? Fire screen stick-em caps, too.
Well, let's get back.
Then I'll pull back the bolt and I'll blast my way out with Mattel's Dick Tracy Tommy Burst. You can fire with burst caps or shoot one at a time.
I thought you wanted to read Dick Tracy.
Not now. I think he's on television.
You can get Mattel's fabulous new Dick Tracy Snub-Nose 38 pistol and special belt holster, or the exciting Tommy Burst machine gun for $3 each. They're the only official Dick Tracy guns. And remember, you can tell it's Mattel. It's swell.
Full Auto is intended for purely entertainment purposes and in relation to any actual person living or dead is purely coincidental. We are not responsible for the results that might befall you should you ever actually take our advice about anything. Full Auto is a ZipCat.no-gov licensed show. This means you are free to reuse this content any way you see fit, so long as you are not a representative or advocate of government. For more information, go to vipcat.org. And now, without further delay, here are your hosts, Dimitri and Paul.
So now we're going to look at taking a new approach.
Oh, that's always exciting.
Well, it's a less direct approach, and wherever possible, it's always, it's kind of like, it's like jujitsu. Jujitsu is a martial art that's centered around the idea of using your opponent's momentum against them. You don't directly confront them, assault them. You allow them to come to you. And that's kind of the way that I view licensing and registration. It's kind of that method. We don't have to go out and take all these guns. All we have to do is, we raise the cost of entry, and we create a database where we know where everyone is, and we don't have to take away all the guns. We just have to find a way to take away guns from people that we need to take them away from. So from 1918 to 1920, with the defeat of Germany in World War I, the nation was forced to accept a series of devastating reparations, including a lot of gun restrictions. In 1919, the German government passed the Regulations on Weapons Ownership, which declared that all firearms, as well as all kinds of firearms ammunition, are to be surrendered immediately. Under the regulations, anyone found in possession of a firearm or ammunition was subject to 5 years imprisonment and a fine of 100,000 marks. On August 7th, rising fears whether or not Germany could have rebellions prompted the government to enact a second gun regulation law called the Law on the Disarmament of the People. Wow, they weren't even trying.
Nice.
They weren't even trying. The Law on the Disarmament of the People. It put into effect the provisions of the Versailles Treaty in regard to the limit, now this is going to sound familiar to you, on military-type weapons. And by the way, this is, it's kind of getting a little bit off topic here, but the federal government's fear of individuals having military-type weapons isn't because they fear mass shootings. It's because
no, they do. They do fear mass shootings.
Mass shootings of government people.
Politicians, yeah.
Right. So in 1928, after a near decade of hyperinflation destroyed the structural fabric of society, it prompted the rapidly declining conservative majority to enact the Law on Firearms and Ammunition. And this is before they're hitting them head on. They're hitting them head on. Now here comes the shift. Ready? The law relaxed gun restrictions and put into effect a strict firearms licensing scheme. Under this scheme, Germans could possess firearms, but they were required to have separate permits to do the following: own or sell firearms, carry firearms, including handguns, manufacture firearms, and professionally deal in firearms and ammunition.
As long as you weren't a Jew.
Well, we'll get to that.
Oh, is that coming?
Oh, that's on either the fourth or fifth segment here. We're only on segment 3, dude.
Oh, sorry.
Now we're going to bring it to more present, to America. And the Gun Control Act of 1968 was enhanced in 1993 with the passage of the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act. The Brady Act created a background check system, which is still in existence today, which required licensed sellers to inspect the criminal history background of prospective gun purchasers. And the Brady Act created a list of categories of individuals to whom the sale of firearms is prohibited. As well, I won't read the as quoted, whatever. I won't read all this law here. But essentially, what the Brady Act did was create the background check, which, interestingly, Now, I wasn't too aware of these types of issues in 1993. I was the editor of a poetry magazine and had very different concerns in my head back then. But had I been more aware, I would have thought, well, the sky is falling. It's the end of the world. It's, this is time for revolution. This is the bridge too far. This is it. And I remember I had some conservative friends who were telling me, it's the revolution. I remember 1993, 1994, those periods of time. And now it's 20-some years later, and now a background check system? It's kind of accepted, isn't it? Licensing to own guns? Kind of accepted.
All things in time are accepted.
It's like when I used to milk cows, and the first few times that I went to the barn, the crap smelled like crap, and it was overpowering, and it was really nasty. But after a few times, kind of got used to it.
Dude, it's the same thing with automobile licensing. The first people who had cars didn't have licenses to drive them. They were just driving away.
Which
and
is
over time,
how it should be, yes.
Yeah, and over time, the licensing laws went into effect and people rebelled against them, and little by little people became sheeple and started following the rules.
Yeah, we may actually do a show in the future. We may or may not. I won't pledge to it. We may actually do a show about the history of car licensing. I know it sounds boring, but a vehicle, being mobile, being able to go wherever you want, that most assuredly is a key part of self-defense.
Did you need a license? Did you need a license to own a horse?
No.
What about a birth certificate? Did you need a birth certificate to be born?
No,
you didn't. Yeah, that's
licensing,
another subject.
Yeah, that's another topic. But yeah, we may venture down the car path there because vehicles.
The car path or the car road?
Oh, that's kind of a corny joke.
Yeah. Boulevard?
Is that like, are you heading me down the my roads argument? Is that where we're going with this? We don't want to go there. No,
what about my road? What about my roads?
Well, my roads. Without my roads, if we didn't allow the government to regulate our guns, who would build the roads?
You took the words right out of my mouth.
I stole it. I stole that from you, man. I totally stole that. So what you have here is, and you see it gets ever more amped up. What are they doing in California? Now they want you to be. Initially, you just had to have a background check for your gun. Now in California, it's already passed. It's actually Californians voted for. Well, I won't say Californians voted for this. A certain percentage of the people that decided to vote chose this restriction on their own lives. They chose to now make it mandatory that if you want to buy ammunition in California, you also have to go through a background check. So I have a little thing that I've said before, and I'll say it again, which is, and this might sound a little harsh, I would much rather put myself at risk of a maniac, a lunatic, a complete goon, having a gun that shouldn't have a gun, killing me with that gun, than I would empowering the government with the decision to define what a maniac is. And if that belief is internalized within you, you could never support, legitimize, or accept the power that government takes. And it's not just the United States government, it's governments around the world. The power that government takes from you in your fundamental, I'm calling it a human reality, not a right. It's a human reality. Human beings have a natural tendency to want to defend themselves, and the government wants to deny that simple natural tendency.
People want to live?
People want to live.
Well, why? Why don't people want to live?
I can't answer that. That's a metaphysical, evolutionary, philosophical,
Religious conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't have an answer to that.
But
All I know,
you're saying that all people want to live? No.
I can't say all people want to live. I can say an incredible, vast majority of them, 90+% maybe.
And are you saying
95%? I don't know.
And are you saying of those 95% that a large number of those people would be willing to kill someone who is trying to kill them in order to defend their lives?
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
brash. That's crazy. That's nuts.
That is pretty creepy, pretty insane.
Yeah,
and
well,
yet,
that is insane.
And yet, it seems to be that that's what human beings are like.
Wow.
It seems to be the basic human reality.
You should write a letter to every congressman in America and let them know this.
They probably don't know. That's why they're passing
don't.
these dumb laws that defy the very reality of what it means to be human.
You know why that is? Because they're freaking lawyers who live in la land.
Or it's because they know full well what it is that they're doing, and they want to administer as little force, as little coercion as possible, because coercion costs. It costs something to you. There is a degree of loss whenever you exert force or coercion over someone else. So they would like to make it as gentle and palpable on you as possible, but they absolutely mean to put you in a position where when push comes to shove, they're the ones that have the controls. They want to guarantee their protection against you.
And isn't that why the Founding Fathers put the Second Amendment in that document that we all revere?
You revere, I don't.
Yeah.
I have no reverence for the Bill of Rights. I like the principles.
Are you an anarchist?
I am whatever you want to call me, it doesn't matter. I recognize that human reality is its own thing. It exists independent from anything written on a piece of paper. And in point of fact, we've already covered in this show pretty quickly the same institution that ratified the Bill of Rights, which included the Second Amendment, almost immediately set to change the understanding of the Bill of Rights, including attempting at least to pass gun control laws, which initially weren't going through. And you have to go back and listen to, I can't remember the name of our show where we actually cover, I think gun control is racist. Go look for that show, Gun Control is Racist, and we cover some of the history behind these laws that show that, yeah, whatever the Founding Fathers said, whatever they wrote on paper, what was in the hearts of men who had power was very different than what was on that paper. We're going to move.
This reminds me, if I may share a personal story, this reminds me of something my father shared with me about his father. When the Germans were occupying Greece, and the law of the land had become to turn over all the Jews, turn over the gypsies, make sure that your neighbors have given to the German regime all of their wool and leather and wood and materials for the Germans to fight the war. My grandfather's response was, law is based on morality. Morality is not based on law. When law supersedes morality, you must ignore it. And he did, and he paid the price for it.
But your grandfather was wrong.
Why is that?
Law is not based on morality. Law is based
on power. Yeah.
But law does not equal morality. He's right about
Correct.
that.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to the fourth segment here, and we have 5 total segments here. In the fourth segment, we're going to look at exceptions. That's the next part. Exceptions. You always have to have exceptions.
If you're tuning into this broadcast, freedom is obviously important to you. But unfortunately, whatever small fraction of freedom you have left is disappearing rapidly as Leviathanic governments continue to pass law after law restricting your natural right to your person and property. You also know that freedom can't be won through the slave suggestion system known as politics. Things can seem hopeless, but freedom is more possible than you realize. Liberty Under Attack presents the Direct Action Series, your guide to finding freedom now without asking for permission. It includes over 40 hours of pure solutions presented to you in an advertisement-free format with bonus content. You can get your copy of the Direct Action Series for only $10. And, while supplies last, you'll receive an LUA Voluntarist koozie for simply supporting LUA. What are you waiting for? Visit libertyunderattack.com/freedom now to secure your copy today. Again, libertyunderattack.com/freedom now. And make sure to tune in to LUA Radio Live at 7 p.m. Central every Thursday and Sunday on the Freedom Phalanx Radio Network.
Have you ever asked yourself the question, who do you call when the police are harassing you? What if you're an activist and need help? Who do you trust enough to ask for help when your car breaks down or when you're being bullied at school or need medical help? What about a terrorist attack or a mass shooting? Well, Cell 411 is a fantastic new app that allows you to issue real-time emergency alerts to your family, neighbors, or friends, to one of them or many, in an instant with the tap of a finger. The emergency alert includes your exact GPS coordinates, and your trusted friends will get turn-by-turn directions to your location so they can come and help you in need. You'll be notified of an ETA, who's coming to help you, and when they'll arrive at your location. All this happens within seconds. Cell 411 is changing the way humans are handling emergencies all over the world. And the best thing about it is that it's completely free. It's not dependent on government or decades-old analog telephone networks to function. Whether you're a student, parent, neighborhood watcher, or activist, this app is for you. Give it a try and download it today from getcell411.com.
All right, now how you spell this? 1 and then 800 is 2 zeros, right? All right, so get. Wait a minute, how do I type letters? I don't know how to dial letters. Oh, there are little letters next to the numbers. Okay, that might be it. So G is for E, T, A, G, O. No, it's U. U, N. All right. Give me one of them guns, mow down everybody. It's going to be great.
Thank you for Delta Machinery Inquiry Service.
What?
Press 1 to locate the Delta distributor nearest you, or
hell?
for product information. Press 2 for technical service, or to
No, I
order
need a
parts
gun.
directly from Delta. Press 3 for the number of the Delta International Machinery headquarters.
Delta International
Press 4
Machinery
to
makes
repeat
guns?
options.
All right, let me go 1. Product service.
Thank you for calling Miss South Anesthesia Consultants. Our office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. If this is a true medical emergency, please hang up and dial 911 or go to
medical.
the nearest emergency room.
Medical
If
emergency.
you're concerning a routine office matter, please press 0 to speak with the after-hours dispatcher.
What?
If you're a research
No, I just need one of them guns.
have questions for the doctor,
No, I need that gun that mows people. Lady, can you hear me? I need a gun that mows everybody down. I tell you what, that guy in that show told me about it. Wait, what? No! You disconnected me. Oh, hell, it's terrible customer service, man. I'll just go back to Smith & Wesson.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
You know, if you're going to pass a bunch of laws, that restrict individuals' ability to defend themselves, you have to remember that there are classes of people that, because there's no such thing as an unformed, unnamed entity called the state that exists outside of a collection of humans. The state is always merely a collection of humans who are their owners, there's managers, there's enforcers, and then a much larger group, the ones that are subject to these laws more often than not, the enablers. So you want to make sure that your owners, your managers, and your enforcers do not suffer the same restrictions on their human reality that the enablers suffer. And so we go back to Germany. What happened with the with these laws was they had to write in some exceptions, and the exceptions came around 1938. With the 1938 German Weapons Act, the precursor of the current weapons law in Germany, by the way, which was superseded by the 1928 law, there were some changes that were made. As under the 1928 law, citizens were required to have a permit to carry a firearm and a separate permit to acquire a firearm. But under the new law, gun restriction laws applied only to handguns, not to long guns or ammunition. The 1938 revisions simply deregulated the acquisition and transfer of light rifles and shotguns, as was the possession of ammunition. Now we get to that part's important, but now we're going to get to the really important parts. Okay, the legal age of which guns could be purchased was lowered from 20 to 18, and permits were valid for 3 years rather than 1 year. So what you see going on here, kind of before we referenced in the last segment, is there's a little bit more jujitsu going on. I think what they recognized was, we can actually lessen the restrictions and still have ultimate control. But that wasn't enough. They added some exemptions. Groups of people were exempted from the acquisition permit requirement, and those were holders of annual hunting permits, government workers, and the National Socialist German Workers' Party, which we all know is the Nazi Party.
That's not a special group, is it?
That's a special group. They were no longer subject to gun ownership restrictions, and prior to the 1938,
good for them.
Isn't that wonderful? It's
That's
wonderful.
Lovely.
Because
Can I join that? Can I join that club?
They were the enforcers. They were the brown shirts. That's so prior.
Oh wait, I don't want to join that club.
Actually, yeah, I think by 1938. Well, no, let me see. Yeah. When was the Night of the Long Knives when the brown shirts lost power? But maybe it was 1938. Prior to the 1938 law, only officials of the central government, the states, and employees of the German Reichsbank railways were exempted. So you have to add exemptions because you want to make sure that the people that are part of that system can protect themselves against the enablers. You and I, by the way, we're in the enabler class.
Nice.
We're not owners. We're not managers. We're not enforcers. We're enablers. Now, some are more enabling than others. Some people are, I would say, enablers against their wills. Most people, though, are willing enablers because they get a trade-off for it, or at least they think they do. They think they get security and assurances that people won't kill them, but that's a lie.
Well, look at Chicago. That's working real well there.
Oh, isn't it? It's so wonderful.
Chicago.
So now we're going to go. So now we're going to go to 2011, June 6th. Wow, June 6th. Isn't that D-Day? How fitting. In June 6, 2011, the California State Assembly voted 28-8 to exempt itself from the California gun control laws that apply to the rest of the populace. Yep.
Nice.
Yes, this article is from the Washington Times. So legislators apparently think that they alone are worthy to pack heat. Okay, they're doing a little editorializing there. So this is just one of the many bills that Golden State politicians use this legislative session to set themselves apart from the little people, the enablers, the ones who pay their inflated salaries. Annual compensation for legislators average about $140,000. Okay, who cares? Well, and they got other things like they got luxurious perks such as taxpayer-funded cars, free gasoline, and yeah. So that's just one little example of how.
So when Billy Bob went to hit it with a hottie prostitute, he got free gas for that?
Well, if
by
you're
Billy
a
Bob, I
legislator,
mean whatever politician in California.
whatever,
was up to no
insert
good.
generic politician name here.
Yeah.
Yes, Billy Bob got that. So if you're going to pass these gun legislation laws, you have to make sure that your people, with their owners, if they're magistrators, if they're enforcers, that, and even if they're paramilitary forces, like in the case of the Nazis, the Nazi Party was a paramilitary organization. You have to make sure that those folks have exemptions, and the California Assembly is an example of that today. But even today, you have these gun restrictions that are written, and how many times do we see in the gun? They exempt, of course, the government agents.
So what you're saying is that
Even government agents like parks and recreation people are getting exemptions for gun laws. Okay.
So what you're saying is that the California legislators are acting like the nationalist socialists that replaced the Weimar
I
Republic.
violated Godwin's law. I just compared them to the Nazis.
Oh.
And I don't care. Because in this
You
case...
shouldn't.
In this case, it totally applies. They did what the Nazis did. They wrote themselves an exemption. And if you look at California, it's so dominated by one party, which is one of the reasons why it's so unhealthy whenever you have any kind of political monopoly, you're rife for corruption. So,
well, I'm wondering if this is a tangent, of course, but I'm wondering if that difference really exists or if it's crafted and created. I know lots of people who live in California, and every single one of them does not vote left wing. And
but it's like maybe 60-40. So 60. I'm talking among voters. I'm not talking about who.
I mean,
there's plenty of folks that may.
I don't trust it in California any more than I trust it in Connecticut.
Could very well be, but that's beside the point. The point is whether it's an honest monopoly of power, if you can say there is such a thing, or a dishonest monopoly of power. In point of fact, the Democratic Party controls California, and they have a pretty, at the state level especially, they have a pretty lock-solid control of that state. When you look at the vote was 28-8 to give themselves exemptions from gun control laws. That says a lot. So we're going to get into our last segment. Now, our last segment is this is where it starts to get, well, all of this is troubling enough, but all of this is tied together in the last segment of what some of the things that may be down the pike, not necessarily in America, but then again, maybe in America, but certainly wherever you have a nation that's headed down a path of empowering the state to pick the winners and losers of the self-defense lottery. You could end up in this place, which is the last segment, which is we're going to talk about the undesirables, or the deplorables, if you will. Ooh.
The Freedom Fiends now have a free app for your Android phone, tablet, phablet, or other chromed robot turd, available now from the Google Play Store, Amazon, and freedomfiends.com. Lovingly handcrafted by head hamster Michael W. Dean, the artisanal Freedom Fiends radio app allows you to listen live, keep up with the podcast, chat directly with other fiends, get discounts on bigger buttons, brainwash yourself with a 24/7 random episode, and so much more. You know the Freedom Fiends is the best libertarian radio show in the world, but when the Fiends aren't live, you can use the app to listen to LRN.FM from anywhere. The Freedom Fiends radio app is like having a virtual libertarian re-education camp in your pocket. It's your gateway to the exclusive, high-demand group that is the Freedom Fiends. Install the Freedom Fiends radio Android app today. It's free, and of course, it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Tell 2 friends. Review it on Google Play and Amazon. Prepare for the inevitable death of terrestrial radio, and get ready for LibPair with the Freedom Fiends radio app for Android. Worms.
Ross Ulbricht was sentenced to life in prison for operating the Silk Road. But that's not the end of the story. Ross is trying to get out, but he needs your help. The free Rossathon is happening Sunday, December 4th from 2 to 10 p.m. Eastern, featuring Roger Ver, Cody Wilson, Doug Casey, Tom Woods, and dozens of equally seditious speakers. Go to freeross.org right now and register for this free event. It's a fundraiser for Ross's appeal, so prepare to be inspired. freeross.org. That's freeross.org.
You know, and I'm like, I swear to God, I'll never forgive that bitch for as long as I live.
With Trip Q.
What a dick. Always got to get ahead of me.
Yeah, dude, I'm going to be one up in your ass, man. And Zach Odom.
Nah, dude, today's been a rough day, man. I'm an asshole.
Where we believe in karma.
I like to say I deserved a daughter.
Right, yes.
You know.
Intellectual pop culture analysis.
You got a bunch of people talking country nowadays, and it's all pop music as far as I'm concerned.
I call it cunt pop, man.
Tune in on Wednesdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. Eastern to 11. You can listen to us on jrevradio.com, Raz Radio Live, and you can search us through the TuneIn app. This is Post Politics saying, turn on, tune in, rebel.
You are watching a demonstration of the most authentic cap pistol in the world. It has exclusive fanning action and shoots safe shooting shells with greeny stickum caps. The gun and hip-slung Mattel holster are specially made for a fast draw. All of Mattel's shooting shell fanners and holsters carry the true stamp of the Old West. And every boy will walk tall when he wears a holster and pistol with a Mattel brand. You can tell it's Mattel. It's swell.
So you started a local business, and you're just waiting for the people to beat a path to your site. And waiting, and waiting, and waiting. Well, you can keep on waiting, or you can get results with Regal Blue Media. Get the results you want. More sales, more influence, votes, donors, whatever. Regal Blue Media offers a full range of new media and traditional media services for companies and organizations to communicate effectively and achieve their desired results. Well-connected, experienced, and highly ethical, we strive to meet your expectations and then exceed them time after time. Whatever your project, whether big or small, we have the people and the tools to serve you and make you a success. Call 717-503-1645 and schedule your free consultation today. Or visit us at regalbluemedia.com. That's regalbluemedia.com.
I think it's common sense, Dimitri, that if you're part of a group like the undesirables, the deplorables, why would anybody want you to have a gun? You're a fundamental danger to society if you have a gun. I mean, that's not a risk that I'm willing to take, right?
Well, we did a show that said that the the title of it was that gun control is racist.
And I just did a show last week by myself, thank you, Dimitri, called Gun Control is Sexist.
Oh, yeah, but we actually lost a good show.
We did. We actually did a Gun Control is Sexist show together, and
we lost it.
We lost it.
And
it was a great show that we'll never
I would
hear.
I would like to add, because this is where we're headed, that gun control is anti-Semitic.
Yeah. Or maybe down the road, maybe it's anti-Arab. Maybe it's anti-Muslim.
Or anti-redneck.
Anti-Christian.
And yeah. It's anything where the power structure targets the undesirables.
Right. So we're going to go back in time again. We're going to go back to Germany. And the manufacturer of arms and ammunition continued to require a permit, with the revision that such permits would no longer be issued, prepare yourself, to Jews or any company part owned by Jews. Jews were consequently forbidden from the manufacturing or dealing of firearms and ammunition. Under both the 1928 and 1938 Acts, gun manufacturers and dealers were required to maintain records with information about who purchased guns and the guns' serial numbers. Just take that in.
Yeah, but how would they know if you're a Jew or not?
Well, these records were to be delivered to a police authority for inspection at the end of each year. So I guess if they saw your name on there, maybe the local people knew who the Jews were.
So if you're a Kohan,
yeah,
use out.
Use out. The 1938 regulations against Jews' possession of weapons. That's one thing, man. I guess these Germans hadn't learned what, they hadn't. I guess they hadn't read their Orwell yet. They don't know, because nowadays that would be called the freedom, the Jewish Freedom Act or something like that, instead of regulations against Jews' possessions of weapons, promulgated the day after Kristallnacht. So you think about that, the day after Kristallnacht. So all these German thugs went out and they busted up all these Jewish places, broke windows, and in response was like, these Jews are dangerous. Effectively deprived all Jews living under the Third Reich of the right to possess any form of weapons, including truncheons, knives, or firearms and ammunition.
What's a truncheon?
Truncheon is like a billy club, it's a little club-like thing. Before that, some police forces used the pre-existing trustworthiness clause. That's where we began, where we talked about trustworthy. Well, actually, it was the second segment, so we're going back to that. Trustworthiness. And
trustworthy or undesirable? That's the question.
Well, undesirable and trustworthy are the same, two sides of the same reality. You're either trustworthy or you're undesirable. You're untrustworthy. If you're untrustworthy, you're deplorable. You're unredeemable. You're a fundamental risk to society. And that's what happens when you empower any state, any coercive enterprise, with the ability to define who gets to defend themselves and who does not get to defend themselves, and the conditions laid on people as far as that self-defense goes. If a government was of the people, why would it feel the need to disarm them? Dimitri?
Because it's not of the people. Once you get into the elite, once you become part of the elite, then you fear the people.
Yeah, you want protection. People, you want protection. They're competition at this point. They're competition, and you want to free them. Well, everything is competition. It's all rooted to competition
to some degree, but it's also, the white trash is below you, the blacks are below you, the uneducated are below you, the Jews are below you, the Arabs are below you.
Well, they got to be below you. That whole mentality. Go ahead.
You identify now with being part of the elite, and you should be able to protect yourself against these crazy, uneducated, vagabond type, undisciplined, crazy undesirables.
All that is a surface lie that you have to create to justify the fact that you know that you're treating individuals differently than you want to be treated. So and the reason you're doing it is fundamentally you want to assure that you stay right where you're at and they stay right where they're at. And to do that, you have to do unethical things. You have to create special rules for special people. And in order for you to justify that, you have to create it in your head. Some people are just more worthy than others. And, it is true. Some people are more worthy is a relative term, but I'll say some people really are more worthy than others, but not groups of people, not collectives. And you have to create a collective unworthiness to justify the collective act that you take against your potential competitors. Everything to me, everything is rooted in, as far as the legitimization of a coercive enterprise, everything is rooted in competition to me. And it's the fear of competition that drives you to accept the terms of a coercive enterprise that will always give you an impediment on your human reality in exchange for a protection against others. And in
How
this
is
case,
that any different than like the Italian mob that gives you protection?
it's not at all. It's the same exact thing, except the Italian mob, well, in some neighborhoods, in some communities, the Italian mob does have, I'm not going to say real legitimacy, but perceived legitimacy, but not like government does. Government has legitimacy with a much wider swath of people than the mob does, but it's absolutely the same principle. When I was reading, when I was doing the research for this show, I was reading articles where the left was trying to debunk the theory that the Jews ended up getting taken away in cattle cars because they handed in their guns. And then it was connected to these German laws. And now, to be fair, there are false narratives out there that somehow it was the Nazis that passed all these crazy gun control laws. No, in actuality, the Nazis lifted restrictions. But remember what I said about jiu-jitsu. They were practicing jiu-jitsu. They weren't being merciful. They weren't more liberty-minded. They knew that they were biting off a whole bunch of stuff that was going to tweak a lot of people. And so lifting restrictions on gun control in a way in which they could still monitor and control the elements that would cause them problems was far more effective than maintaining the draconian gun control laws from the Weimar Republic. So on paper, the liberals will tell you, see, it wasn't gun controls that enabled Hitler to do the stuff that he did. No, the Weimar Republic helped create the culture that accepted that level of control from their government. It legitimized Hitler before he ever came to power. And then they extended it to target the troublesome groups that they were going to go after. I guarantee you that if they went into these Jewish enclaves and they said, we're going to round you up, and the Jews were armed, I think the cost of coercion for the Nazis would be far greater, and their efforts would have been far less effective, and you would have had a PR nightmare as well, where they'd be killing Jews in the streets instead of politely off to the side. It's not, most Germans didn't want to see Jews get killed. Some did, certainly a fair percentage did, but most of them didn't want to. They wouldn't even accept that this is what their own government was doing. So it's always in the best interest of you to be able to have your own means of self-defense, come what may, in whatever way you can do that. And remember,
so Could one say that Trump's ideas of creating a national concealed carry permit is the same kind of relaxing of the laws?
Jiu-jitsu. Yes, that's jiu-jitsu. Absolutely.
Hey, let's register all these people who want to have a carry permit nationally.
Right.
And get them on the books. Yeah, we'll know who they are.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's not
jiu-jitsu.
very comfortable feeling for me.
No. And also remember that Trump supports the no-fly, no-buy list, which I mean, that's like the fruit. To me, that's the outside of complete and total gun prohibition, which is very costly for a government that has people who already have a lot of guns. It's very costly. Outside of that no-fly, no-buy list, that is creating a precedent that the state can determine collectively. And you're put into a collective. That's how you end up on that list. You went to the wrong country at the wrong time. You talked to the wrong person, the wrong group. You have the wrong beliefs. That is a precedent that is chilling. And it, to me, is it's the fruit of a fundamentally mentally ill state.
Well, how is that different than the Cold War? Where, hey, you traveled to Russia, you were talking to Russians.
Right. That then you get blacklisted, and you get you.
But I've never heard of someone walking into a gun store.
Not black marketed, blacklisted. Sorry.
Yeah, but I've never heard of a communist walking into a store in America and them being denied a gun because of their political affiliations. Correct?
Well, they didn't have the gun registration in the 50s, but if they did, they probably would have been in the 50s. They would have been on that list.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we'll wrap this show up. Next week, we'll return to our regular format, and we'll be looking at what's going on in Gunmerica at that present moment in time. Thank you once again for joining us here on Full Auto with Dimitri and Paul. That's New Shooting Self-Defenses, Full Auto. We'll see you next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Same bat time, same bat channel. You can catch us here once again at Spreaker.com, and you can also check us out on IPMNation.com. Oh, yeah. I didn't do that. Yes. Yeah,
that's not for you to do.
What's it mean?
That means good night there, folks.
Good night there, folks.